Good evening, folks. This is Carl, your ticker guy. Well, the bill is out. We have them asking that the members of the Republican caucus that can vote for this in good conscience do so. The Democrats got out and paraded around, strutted their stuff. Nancy Pelosi. It's a strong bipartisan effort. I ain't seen bipartisanship, really. I saw a bunch of dogs kicking and screaming, dragged up to the podium to announce that they were going to hand over $700 billion of your money to Secretary Paulson. Now, quite frankly, the vote hasn't been held yet, and I don't think they've got the votes right now. I think the most important thing you can do right now is redouble your efforts to reach your congresspeople and make sure they know if they vote for this bailout, they're going to lose their jobs in about 4 or 5 weeks. That's not to say we shouldn't solve some problems, guys. We really should. We need a bill. I don't know if we're going to get one, but you know what? It is better to not have a bill than to have a bad bill, and this is a bad bill. The problem here in the system, folks, is trust, fundamentally. This bill's not going to restore trust. Let me give you just one example. We have Section 132 in this bill, which essentially repeals mark-to-market accounting, but it doesn't do it across the board. It only does it for firms that the SEC chooses to exempt. Now, this is the same sort of garbage that's been going on with Washington Mutual and playing favored games. You know, the old favored son approach? Yeah, that. Well, you know, this is kind of an issue here because if you hold stock in one of these firms and mark-to-market's repealed for them, they're going to report very good earnings. But the guy down the street doesn't get mark-to-market repealed for him. He reports crappier earnings. This is kind of a problem. It makes it impossible for me to take two balance sheets and put them side by side and try to figure out what the hell's going on between the two companies. How is this a good idea? I suspect FASB's going to have something to say about this too. But this is the same sort of cronyism, guys, that is all throughout this bill. This is what happens when you give people discretion. It tends to get abused. This is the reason why we should let the free market work these kinds of things out to the degree that we can. We've got Section 128, which everybody says, oh, you know, that's great. And you're going to have all kinds of talking heads running around saying it's wonderful because it allows Bernanke to pay interest on reserves. That's not a problem. The problem is what else is in the statute that's referenced by Section 128. That is the ability to set the reserves in the banking system to zero. Now, folks, reserves in a banking system are just kind of like the leverage ratios are anywhere else. If I have to hold 5% reserves, my maximum leverage ratio in the system is 20 to 1. If I have to hold 8% reserves, it's about 12 to 1, and then 10% reserves is about 10 to 1. What is it? Zero. Well, if you figure out how to divide by zero, let me know. This makes figuring out whether a bank is solvent very difficult. It also means that you could have hyperinflation show up out of the middle of nowhere, created by banks. Now, that's not very likely because banks, generally speaking, don't think hyperinflation is too cool. You know, you buy a house with a loan, a $400,000 loan, and then hyperinflation hits. Bank gets their $400,000. The problem is all it buys is a couple of loaves of bread or a keg of beer. And that doesn't do them a whole lot of good. So generally speaking, banks don't like that scenario. But it can happen in ways that are rather ugly, and the bigger problem is there's no capital cushion there to support these firms if they get in trouble once the reserve ratios have been cut. A big part of the reason we're in this trouble is because we have sweep accounts and other forms of nonsense that have allowed the reserve ratios to be gamed over the last 20 years. This was an Alan Greenspan financial innovation, just like so many other financial innovations. We don't have any kind of clawback authority of any substance regarding executive compensation. I frankly don't care how much you make as long as you don't come to the government and ask for a handout. As soon as you do, I don't think any of the people in your firm ought to make more than the President of the United States. After all, if you're part of the government, why should you make more than the President? He makes more than everybody else, right? I don't think that anybody below the level of director should make more than, say, a House member. I think that's pretty reasonable, too. But those kinds of provisions are only there for the first 5 employees. The top 5, huh? Goldman Sachs paid out, what, some $30 billion in bonuses the last couple of years? Is it a problem? I guess that's up to you. We have Section 104 that is the oversight board that's supposed to look over this whole thing. There's actually 2 oversight boards. One of them doesn't sound so bad. It's a member from the House, someone from the Senate, one from the majority, minority parties. And that kind of stuff's kind of okay. I mean, you know, the people in Congress get to appoint somebody to watch the store. The problem with Section 104 is that it has all the idiots that caused this problem on that board. That's the primary oversight board. That has people in it like the Secretary of the Treasury, Ben Bernanke, You know, all those nice guys that presided over this mess in the first place. It may just be my cynicism, but the last time I checked, appointing a bank robber to watch the vault, probably not the best idea. We have these other problems here in that we have consideration in Section 103. It is supposed to be given to protecting the taxpayer. But in what order? There's like 6 different items in there. Hey, we have to consider this, consider that, consider this. I don't know. What comes first? It's not specified. We have all kinds of other interesting things in there that are supposed to protect the taxpayer too. After 5 years, the president is supposed to put together some way to claw back all the costs if, in fact, this thing loses money. If you believe that, I have a bridge to sell you. We've had projections for the last 20 years that in the out years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, 8 years later, that we would have a balanced budget or even run a surplus. Hasn't happened. Not once. And there's always some exigent circumstance that causes it. Supposedly we have, as the keystone here, in Section 22A, that it protects home values. This is one of the purposes of the bill. Well, folks, the reason we're here is because homes are too expensive. Why would you want to protect home values if the problem is that homes cost too much? What was better for you? Would you rather have a house that you can't afford, that you spend 50 or more % of your income on? Or would you rather have a house that you're in, you get foreclosed, and then 2 years later you buy back at half price? I know what I'd rather have. This bill, folks, is a travesty, and furthermore, it's not done. You need to get on the phones, and you get on the faxes, and you need to tell people right now, call Congress, tell them no way. And by the way, if you're wondering what the markets think of this, here's a chart. Here are the futures. You will see that right when this deal was announced this evening, there was a nice little spike, all the way up to 1220. Well, guess what? That little spike is now basically gone. It has all bled back off as people have gotten a look at this thing and realized it's a steaming turd. And you know what, folks? No matter how hard you try, you can't polish a turd. Get on the phone, get on the fax, tell Congress, you pass this, you lose your job. And if they do pass it anyway, here's my suggestion. Buckle up. Get ready. If this indication that we're having in the markets now is any indication of what the market's going to think over the next few days, it's not going to be pretty. But don't watch the stock market. That's not a good tell. What you will probably see is spreads will come in tomorrow. But if this is anything like Fannie and Freddie, it isn't going to last very long. And when it doesn't, things are going to get bad. We have an election coming up. You get to take out your ire on the people that do the dumb things and screw you as a taxpayer. We're going to need that $700 billion, folks. Unfortunately. We're going to need it very badly. Hank Paulson, you overplayed your hand. Now it's time to find out whether or not Congress has the backbone to tell you to stick it, and if not, whether the people have the backbone to do something about this. Have a good day.